You asked multiple questions.
I did not ask him a question.
You certainly did. You said, did you see this?
Time has expired. Gentleladies, time's expired.
Oh boy, you know a clip is gonna be great when it starts with someone telling Marjorie Taylor Greene to shut the hell up.
Hell! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Please, continue.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get into it, it's interesting to hear my colleague just now talk about disavowing white supremacists when in 2022, she spoke at an event led by white supremacists and white nationalist Nick Fuentes, and when asked about it, doubled down on it and said, we're going to focus on people, not labels. So get out of here with that damn hypocrisy.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and hypocrisy, a pairing as perfect as Russians and vodka. Which is an apt comparison here because Maxwell Frost's outrage here was of course in response to Moscow Marge pushing Putin propaganda. Or as the kids call it these days, pushing P. And we'll get into the details of what she said about disavowing white supremacists and Ukraine's Yahtzee problem in a bit, because that is only the first clip I have for you today of Marjorie getting roasted like a pig on a spit. But what he said there should be disqualifying enough. This idiot actually went and spoke at an America First political action conference led by white nationalist Nick Fuentes.
Black people are violent. You know, send the military into these black neighborhoods, make the streets safe, they'll complain about it. It doesn't matter.
Enough with the Jim Crow stuff. Who cares? Oh, to drink out of a different water fountain. Big deal.
And white people are done being bullied.
What a truly garbage human being. It sure would take a real moron to support someone like that.
We looked up some words that have been said about you.
Okay.
Crazy, Q clown,
Osama bin Karen, a dipstick, a dingbat, a dolt, a dullard, a dimwit, a doofus, a dummy, dumbass. I'm only a third of the way through the D's.
Looks like the average troll in my Twitter feed.
A good argument for misogyny.
Have you been in a relationship with a woman?
No.
So how are you telling other people how to behave towards women when you yourself have not had any actual physical, interaction with them? If you are looking to some other regimes around the world that do think that women are half the value of a man, I have to question what kind of a person who's had no experience with women is in a position to basically promote these ideas.
Well, I'm having an experience with a woman right now.
Hilarious. Fuentes seems like the kind of guy that when you bring him home to meet your mom and sister for the first time, he'd try to
grab him by the pussy.
And like Representative Frost said, she doubled down on her decision to speak there, which makes sense. She must have felt right at home because apparently everyone was cheering for Russia and chanting Putin before she spoke.
Russia. Can we give a round of applause for Russia?
And I'll play you some of what Marjorie said here, and bear with me, I know it's hard to listen to anything she squawks out of her mouth. But it is important for context. And just before I play the clip, if you're enjoying the takedown of Marjorie, please drop a like on the video. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and bring you more informative videos like these. We really appreciate it.
You said in your opening statement that the fact that there are neo-Nazis in the Ukrainian military is disinformation, a disinformation trope. Time also put together a piece only 3 years ago that gives full information about the Nazis in Ukraine and their recruitment efforts that go all around the world. I'd like to point out also, here's an NBC article stating that Ukraine's Nazi problem is real. Mr. Snyder, do you see this headline?
And look, those are real and valid concerns. There is a very disgusting militia in Ukraine that Time has reported on, and they do have issues with Nazism and white supremacy. But then again, so do we.
From Charlottesville to Seattle to Houston, white nationalist rallies and protests are popping up all over the country more frequently.
So I guess by Marjorie's logic, it's time to cut the defense budget. Maybe that's what she means when she says defund the FBI. And not to mention, President Zelensky is Jewish, which makes this all the more rich coming from Marjorie of all people.
On a now deleted Facebook post, Greene questioned whether California's deadly campfire in 2018 was started by lasers beamed down from outer space. Lasers, she says, somehow connected to the Rothschilds, the Jewish European banking family, the target of some of the oldest, laziest, most dangerous anti-Semitic tropes on the books: Jewish space lasers.
Not only can we not take you seriously because everything you say sounds like you got it off a conspiracy theory bingo card, but you're also being incredibly dishonest to your Christian nationalist self and to the American people. You're literally pushing the narrative that Putin used as an excuse to invade Ukraine. The same narrative the article you cite states isn't a real or valid claim. Not that accuracy or truth matter to you, though, as long as you can push yours or Putin's agenda, right?
My colleague from Georgia, she talked about misinformation, and I don't know what she was talking about, but we can look at her own tweets and we can find plenty of misinformation, but we're just going to go through one specific tweet. Now, she said that we need to work with Israel to track down the serial numbers on any U.S. weapons used by Hamas against Israel. Are you aware that that was actually just propaganda that was put out, and there actually were not U.S. weapons that were being used by Hamas, as she attempted to insinuate in this tweet?
Yes, I mean, obviously there what you have is a typical example of American-Russian messaging where the implicit idea is supposed to be we shouldn't give weapons to Ukraine because they're going to end up going somewhere else.
Bear with me here. The sass in this clip is great, and I know it's a long one, but the ending is very worth it.
There's no evidence for that.
For some people, especially people that serve on the committee, they may be surprised to know that it's actually a former Russian president and Putin's sidekick, Dmitry M., who actually she quote tweeted. But the biggest problem that we have is we have people that sit in this chamber and they spread the misinformation. If it was left in Russia or China, whatever. But the problem is that you have people that sit in positions of power and they have a $2 million budget. You think that they would call on some staff to find out if they were telling the truth.
You would think, right? But that's the problem with Marjorie. She doesn't really think, she just says stuff, regardless if it comes from her thick head or directly from the Kremlin itself. And frankly, she doesn't care who it hurts. You think this woman actually cares about Jewish people or the rise in anti-Semitism? Really? This woman?
You know, we can look back in a time in history where people were told to wear a gold star, and they were definitely treated like second-class citizens, so much so that they were put in trains and taken to gas chambers in Nazi Germany. And this is exactly the type of abuse that Nancy Pelosi is talking about.
I find that harder to believe than one of her kooky conspiracies. But thankfully, some people in Congress have the integrity to clap back.
You know, the idea that we pretend that behavior is acceptable and regular. There are no concentration camps in Ukraine. They're not taking babies and shooting them in the air because they're Jewish. There's no gas chambers. There's no ovens. They're not railing people in. They're not ripping gold out of people's mouth. They're not taking stuff out of their home. They're not trying to erase a people. They're Ukrainians. Stop bringing up Nazis and Hitler. The only people who know about Nazis and Hitler are the 10 million people and their families who lost their loved ones, generations of people who were wiped out. It is enough of this disgusting behavior using Nazis as propaganda. You want to talk about Nazis? Get yourself over to the Holocaust Museum. You go see what Nazis did. It's despicable that we use that and we allow it and we sit here like somehow it's regular.
It is disgusting and embarrassing, and yet unfortunately, Marjorie knows no shame. And Marjorie will continue to spit shameless lies and misinformation and Kremlin propaganda until she and all her MAGA Republicans are ousted from office. Thank you for watching, folks, and sorry to end on such a dark tone here, but that is the reality we are faced with. And I promise to try to keep things funny where and when I can, but we also have to recognize the very real danger that these people are putting our country in and fight back. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, subscribe, share it with your friends, your enemies, and if you can, we'd greatly appreciate your support so we can keep bringing you these videos and keep fighting to get these clowns as far away from positions of power as humanly possible. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse, and I'll see you guys in the next one.